Okay, Chazal say that that in the place, in the footsteps of where a Baal Tshuva, someone who accepted Tshuva, accepted Yiddishkeit upon themselves, someone who is a Tzaddik Gomer, like the greatest, highest level of Tzidkus, can't stand in their place. Rav Aaron Soloveitchik has a beautiful idea about how the Jewish people are called Yehudim. Interesting, because out of all of the Achim, out of all the brothers, Yehuda wasn't even the most, the one that we learn about the most. We think about Yosef HaTzadik. Yosef was like, you know, he withstood all of these different challenges and temptations, and he was such a tzaddik. He's known as Yosef HaTzadik. Why are we calling Yosefim? We should be named after Yosef, who was known as the tzaddik, as the greatest, you know, person who lived, who never did anything wrong, never stumbled. Why are we called Yehudim? And we're named for Yehuda because Yehuda did stumble, and he did have challenges that he had to overcome. And he overcame them and came back stronger than ever. When he sinned with Tamar, he said, Tzadkami meni, you were more righteous than me. You were great and I was wrong. He admitted to it, and he did that tshuva, and he became a better person for it. And therefore, as Jews, none of us are perfect, and none of us could be tzaddikim gemurim. It's such a hard level to attain. We can't all be tzaddikim. So in order for us to be able to attain to something that's tangible, we're called Yehudim, because we could emulate someone like Yehuda, who we know had a hard time, was able to overcome those challenges. I mean, I grew up as an FFB from birth. I, you know, grew up in my little Dalit Amos of the 5 towns, never really met anyone that different than I was. Camp, school, everything was pretty typical. And I just kind of went through the motions, and I think I was very lucky to grow up in a very religious home and, you know, religious schools, and it was all wonderful. And, but I kind of just like, you know, went along with it, and it was just my routine. And then in high school, I went to a Nancy Swai Shabbaton. It was a little bit of a rebellious act because it was co-ed, but I went. And there, one of the first people I met at that Shabbaton was an advisor who was a Kabbalas HaTorah. I remember her very well. She was from LA, and her parents were not into the whole Jewish religious thing. She wasn't raised at all with any religion. And on her own, she decided to start keeping Shabbos and kosher. She had like a burner in her bedroom and would try to like cook her own food and do it herself. And I remember her telling me the story. I was in 10th grade. It was my first Shabbaton. I had never met or heard from someone like this. And my eyes were like popped open, and I continued a relationship with her, and I started seeing my Yiddishkeit in such a different way that it was like as if I was like beginning my whole Yiddishkeit journey, because I just saw it through her eyes, and how she, who was not handed it on a silver platter, and it was very difficult for her, and a real struggle, as she wanted it and she went after it, and it really opened my eyes. And that's kind of what's behind this program a little bit, that, you know, many of us in Student Choose, when we first moved to Boca, we had so many Balei Tshuva. There were so many people who had started this community who did not grow up religious, and saw Boca as a place where they could really grow and they could thrive, and they could build this beautiful community and this, you know, friends and family. And it's just amazing how we grew from really a lot of those people. And I've learned so much from them, and they've enhanced my Yiddishkeit, which was, you know, with the yeshiva education, with the background, meeting these people who decided on their own to come to it in a different stage of life when they weren't born into it. To me, that was like the greatest inspiration. And I think this program is kind of born out of that idea, that we're all approaching Shavuos now. We're all approaching our own Kabbalas HaTorah. We all go into Shavuos. We want to tap into the meaning of the day. We want to tap into what it means to be at Har Sinai, to feel like we're part of Klal Yisrael, what it meant to stand at the foot of Har Sinai with Moshe coming down with the Torah, with us trying to like incorporate and internalize those mitzvos, those commandments, being part of a nation, everything that Shavuos stands for. You know, many of us were born into it, many of us have learned about this our whole lives, but there are some people in this room, like the 3 women who are speaking tonight, who decided on their own to receive that Torah when it wasn't ingrained in them and it wasn't so obvious and easy for them. So tonight, we could all learn from them what it means to receive Torah, to accept Torah wholeheartedly, full, you know, force ahead, full speed ahead. We want it, we yearn for it, we desire it, not because it's just handed to us, because we go after it and we care so much to make it a part of us. And I think that's what tonight's about. The Mesiras Nefesh, the self-sacrifice, the struggle. We'll hear about all of that tonight from these 3 amazing women, and I'm really, really excited to. I've known all of them, but I don't know every detail of their story, so this is exciting to me also to hear from them. And we could then tap into the meaning of Shavuos, of Kabbalas HaTorah. Of course, we also, in every opportunity, think about Israel, think about what's going on in Eretz Yisrael with the brothers and sisters there, with the hostages, with the soldiers, with the grieving families, with the displaced families, with all the people who are suffering and are in pain. We always want to think about them, especially now with Yom Yerushalayim. It's just a different feeling this year, and the miracles that happened then, we hope could happen now in our day. We should feel Hashem's hand to bring us to a good side of this war, that it should end with victory, with success, with safety, with security. We all just need to keep davening for that. And we have to remember also, I think this holiday of Yom Yerushalayim is a tremendous opportunity for our Kabbalas HaTorah, that we are so blessed that we were given Yerushalayim, we're given access to the Kaskel, we're given access to Shavuos, we're given access to all these places that Jews for centuries didn't have access to. So tonight and tomorrow, let's try to focus our attention on the gifts that we have, Yerushalayim being in our hands, that we're able to visit there, we're able to send our kids there to learn, we're able to be part of that miracle that is Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael today, and to keep davening for that. All right, I would like to now call upon our first speaker, Susie Berger. We are so excited to hear from Susie. She's been a very beloved member of our community for many, many years, and we are really excited to hear from Susie.
Amazing, Robinson. I didn't write a speech, don't worry. Just some bullets. So my world starts with my sweet, loving mom and dad. And I wouldn't be me without them, of course. They were born in Cuba. They were the only generation born in Cuba. Okay, everybody hear me?
Shorter than that.
Okay. They were the only generation born in Cuba. We're Sephardic Jews. My grandparents were born in Turkey and Greece, 3 from Turkey and 1 from Greece. And so they went to Cuba, which was the most amazing place back then to go. And they started a life there. And my parents were born there, and they were the only generation born there, but they had to, unfortunately, leave. We won't get into that story, but I was born in New York, and my sister as well. My sister, her name is Esther. She's 4 years older than me. And we were both born in New York, and when I was about 10, my parents said, okay, let's go. The rest of the family is moving to Florida, so we're all going. So everybody came to Florida, and thank God, because I love Florida. So growing up, our home was very traditional. We made kiddush on Friday night. No pork or shellfish ever came into our home. No meat and dairy on the table together. We went to an Orthodox school because that's the only thing that was. We only knew Orthodoxy. That's all we had. As Sephardic Jews, we didn't have anything else. We went to a shul in Miami Beach, which is Temple Moses, which is the Cuban shul. Typically, the Cuban Sephardic shul is Temple Moses in Miami Beach. So we were living in Fort Lauderdale, and we drove all the way to Miami to go to shul, all the chagim and everything. I remember my father and my uncle they had a group in the shul. It was Maccabi, and the youth group. And my father and my uncle would take turns once a week to drive all the cousins of all of us to go over there, specifically so that we can meet other Jews. In Fort Lauderdale, there was not such a selection. One thing stands out in my mind, I guess, I always remember this. It was very strange. It was Shabbat, it was Saturday, and my grandmother was watching TV, and I sat down next to her, and I had a shirt and my sewing kit, and I started to sew my shirt, and she said to me, no, don't do that. I said, why, Abuela? I have a hole in my shirt. I want to sew it. And she said, no, not today, not today. And I said, okay. So I didn't, but I thought that was strange. I had never heard from Shabbat or that you don't sew on Shabbat or anything like that. And she just said, we don't do that today. We don't sew today. Okay, so I didn't. So Shoshana, her name was Shoshana, my abuela, and that's my maternal grandmother, who I'm named after. So fast forward, when I was 17, I met Alan, and very cute story. My father had a jewelry store in a shopping center in Fort Lauderdale, and he opened up, he actually bought from somebody else the little convenience store at the other end of the shopping center. And he was going in, as Alan does, to say hello to everybody. He needs to make sure he meets everybody. So he said hello to everybody down the shopping center, and he got to my father's store. And he was looking in the showcase, and he was looking at a bracelet, and then he was looking at some other things, and he saw my picture in the showcase. I was modeling jewelry for my dad, and he put the picture in the showcase. And he said, "Who's the girl in the picture?" And my father said, Nobody. You want to buy the bracelet?" So of course, when I heard that story, I came back from school. I would always go help my dad after school. And my mother told me that somebody was looking at my picture. I said, "Bye, I'm going to get some cookies." And I went over there. And so that was the beginning of me and Alan. So fast forward a little while, it was Pesach when we were dating, and he told me he wanted to visit his cousins. He has cousins in Denver, and they were doing a Pesach program in Bonaventure. And he said, "Let's go see them." So I said, "Fine, we'll go and see them after the Seder." So after Seder, we went over there, and there was something, there was a spark that night. There was something that night. Seeing them, seeing their beautiful children, something just, it went unspoken, because Alan and I never spoke about it. We never said anything after that. And there was just a spark that night that really was ignited in both of us, that we knew that that's the type of family we wanted to raise. That's the type of life we wanted to have, and that's the family we wanted to raise. So it was really an inspiration to both of us. But fast forward 4 years down the road, we finally got married. I was 22, and we decided once we got married, we would keep Shabbat as far as we knew, as much as we knew about keeping Shabbat, because again, neither one of us came from home, so we didn't know what we were doing really. And we'd start making the house kosher, again, as to the level of what we knew. And we didn't have a rabbi, we didn't know. We just said, "Okay, let's do this." So I announced to my parents that I wouldn't be going to work on Saturday, and they said, "What?" And especially my sister said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Good, we can close on Saturday, it'd be great. You don't have to come in either." And I guess she got excited about that a little bit later on. But for our honeymoon, we went on a cruise. And we had just come back from a cruise. It was Sunday to Friday, and we got a call. This is our first Shabbat. We got a call from a couple that we met, not Jewish, on the boat that we were hanging out with, that we were having a great time with. And very nice couple from Idaho. And they called. We answered, because what did we know? And they said, "Hey, we're leaving tonight. We want to go out with you guys. Could you, let's meet up, and we want to go to the bowling alley." And we said, "Well, it's Sabbath, and we don't drive on the Sabbath." That much we knew. And they said, "We'll pick you up." And so we looked at each other and said, "Oh, but we also don't touch money on the Sabbath." They said, "No problem, we'll pay." So we went to play pool at the bowling alley with this couple on Saturday, and on Shabbat, our very first Shabbat. And that was our first Shabbat. Eventually, we figured out that to watch college football, we needed to set the timer, because we shouldn't be turning on the TV. We slowly figured things out. Every time I would try to go into my closet to get something, of course, you walk into a dark closet, so you turn on the light. And, Alan just freaked out. So I said, "Chill, we need to do this slowly and figure things out. I made a mistake. My hand went up. That happens." So it was that growth that we went through back and forth, and little mistakes, cute little mistakes that we made along the way, that really made it a fun venture, a fun growth experience. We grew together, and in every way, and it was really just amazing. Till this day, Shabbat, we leave the closet light on. So we were really bored. We were living in Davie. We had Jackie, and we were really bored. And we figured, okay, we have to just like go somewhere else, try to figure out where we can go, because now we're really starting to keep Shabbat a little bit more. And Hashem definitely helped us take the next step. Alan got a job opportunity 20 minutes down the road in Inverary, and we bought a house there. We moved to Inverary Chabad, and we had the rest of the kids there. Then we moved to Boca, and we're here 25 years. Quite a while. I think that's pretty much it. After that, you guys know me for a long time. A lot of you know me for a long time. So we're here 25 years. We have Jackie and Alex that both live here, stone's throw away from me, which is amazing. And Sarah, my daughter Sarah, lives in Israel, in Karmegat. And my son Jacob lives also in Jerusalem. So that's a tough part, but I am proud of them, and I love that we keep in touch all the time. And they have everybody's building their families. They're all married, thank God. Jacob is married to Mary, and Sarah's married to Yaakov, and they have little Ozzy, which I miss like crazy. And Alex just got married 6 months ago. And Jackie and Yehuda live right behind me with their 4 little adorable kids, Gaby, Emma, Jordan, and Noah.
We're doing shout outs.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody, okay. There were a few things I think that, probably questions that I think Yocheved, when you were doing a different format, I got a list of questions that Talia sent over. And one of them was, what's the mitzvah that you really enjoy most? And it probably is gonna sound crazy to a lot of people, but it's actually mikvah. And mikvah is so special to me because it really goes with my personality. Nobody's watching, nobody can tell you how to do it or what to do once you learn, and it is just me and Hashem at that moment. And I feel like when I'm under the water, there's nothing I can't ask for. That everything I ask for has been answered, thank God. And really, it's just the most amazing place to be, not only surrounded by the mitzvah, but really you feel Hashem. You feel Hashem's presence. And so that's the one mitzvah that I really do, that resonates with me, that I love. Let's see if I have everything else. And about growth, like the slow growth that I was telling you about, over the years I've taken on a lot of things that I wasn't doing before. A lot of brachot, tehillim, especially for my kids, his bodedud, listening to rabbi's classes all the time. I'm an addict, so you come into my car and it's the first thing that you hear. So that's me, that's it.
Thank you so much, Susie. Maybe at the end we'll do some questions and answers to get some more details out of everyone. Bracha, there she is. Okay, Bracha Fitch is next. Bracha is like fairly new to the community and has already become such a presence, and really, I think everyone knows her, which is amazing. That's so involved so quickly. Thank you. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you. Not to be worried, I did not write a book, but I do like to carry a book and write notes and things, and then I just have a prop. So it's interesting. Thank you, Susie. It's interesting hearing you speak and hearing some of the similarities in our stories. So it's really interesting. I also wanted to start off by saying I wanted to dedicate this to my parents and thank Hashem for bringing me to this moment and for giving me the opportunity to spend so much time with my parents who live in Canada, and that they're both still with me at 93 and 87. And I'm really, really very, very grateful. So, and of course, without them, I wouldn't be here, not just literally in terms of my physical body being born, but literally being here in Boca. Very hard to say goodbye to them, that's for sure. I will just say, saying goodbye to them almost 6 years ago was one of the hardest things really I had to do. And they said to me, I didn't think at this point in my life you would be leaving me. And I'm very involved in their life. I was very involved in their life. They came over to our house every Friday for Shavuos and gave them food to take home, and very involved in my children's lives. If anybody knows our family, they don't know that my kids make special trips to go see my parents. My 22-year-old just flew from here to Winnipeg to spend time with my parents before he flew back to Israel. When he comes back from Israel, he flies to Canada to go see my parents before he comes home. So I'm grateful for all the time we had with them. What I wanted to add about that was, I say to them now, Mom and Dad, I know it's hard, but when you see what's happened to my children, I know it was the right thing to do. And they do. So I'm very grateful. Okay, my story. First, I also wanted to say, in relation to Shavuos, I feel that if people who have been around a dinner table or anything know my story, they ask me my story, and I say I feel like we had our own personal Lech Lecha. When we left Winnipeg, Canada, almost 6 years ago, for me it was like leaving Mitzrayim. And when we arrived here, it's almost like Matan Torah. I mean, this is a place where you can live and breathe Torah. You can absorb as much Torah as you want. You can immerse yourself. You can think about it. One of the things that they talk about is that we're supposed to every day feel that as if the Torah was given to us today, and that we're supposed to constantly revisit the giving of the Torah. And I feel like being here in Boca is the closest thing to me to being able to feel that every day if I want to, other than being in Israel. So, okay, so my story. I also wrote a few notes, and some of it is like fast forward. So some of it is fast forward, some of it is going back in time. So one of the things I really love to do, again, if you know me, is I like to think, oh, that's why Hashem did that. Oh, that's why we were there. That's how that connected, and that's how that thread went from there to there to there to there, and how we ended up where we are. And so a little bit of what I'm going to tell you are the sort of the different little threads of how we ended up where we ended up. So I grew up in what we thought was a traditional conservative home. So we kept kosher. We went to shul occasionally on Shabbos, not regularly, because of course, being a Jew, if you live in one part of town, the shul you go to is in the opposite part of town. And if you live in that part of town, you go to the shul on the other side of town. So we didn't go every Shabbos. We didn't go every Shabbos, and I really didn't know much about the Chagim other than the Yamim Noraim. I didn't really know much about the Chagim. It was very important to my parents that we went to a Hebrew day school. So I went to Hebrew day school from nursery through 9th grade. And at the time that I went, we learned Mishnah and Rashi, and from grades 1 through 6, we did some kind of Shavuos every morning. I don't remember exactly what, but I remember going to the shul. But everything changed after 7th grade. So it was very important to my parents. Now my husband, he grew up, he was born in Winnipeg, but he grew up in Beverly Hills. And his school, they were closed on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, even though it was a public school. So he grew up very secular, and then we met back in Winnipeg. And what I wanted to say about that is he agreed that we could keep kosher. Once we decided we were getting married, he agreed we could keep kosher, and that our kids would go to Hebrew day school. That was really important to me. And I would just add that my parents made huge sacrifice to make sure that the 4 of us kids went to Hebrew day school. That was really important to our parents. So then we got married. We moved to Wichita, Kansas. We got married in May. We moved to Wichita right after that. Why? Because my husband wanted a second undergrad. His first undergrad was in business, accounting, He didn't like it, and he wanted to get a degree in percussion performance. I think he was either 26 or 28 at the time. And so one says, why Wichita? Why did Hashem have us go to Wichita? Well, who knew? Because while we were in Wichita, I ended up getting an executive MBA. And my executive MBA meant that I had to go to school Friday afternoons and Saturdays. Howard did not know what to do with himself on Saturday in Wichita, Kansas. So, and we were very friendly with the Conservadox rabbi and the Reform rabbi. There were two rabbis there. The Reform rabbi was very musical. My husband loves music. And he started going to shul on Saturday mornings while I was going to school. He joined like the bar mitzvah class so he could learn the tunes because he loves the music. And that began our unified journey on becoming more observant. Who knew? Wichita, Kansas. Later we moved to Nashville, Tennessee. And I wanted to say this book, my sister gave this to me. This is Lori Palatnik, if anybody knows of her. My sister lives in Toronto, and Lori Palatnik started her journey in Toronto. This book is, I think, one of her first books. My sister gave it to me on our 6th anniversary. We were living in Wichita, Friday night and beyond, and this started our doing the brachas and started to observe Shabbat. So part of what I wanted to say too is that it's all these little things in life that happen, and you don't know exactly how they happen or why they happen, but they can change the trajectory of your life. So this book that my sister gave me, it started our whole Friday night journey, and it's very well worn. So fast forward, we started keeping Shomer Shabbat as far as we knew, to the best of our ability in Nashville, Tennessee, and actually we moved from one house that was further away from town. We moved to be closer to the shul so we could walk, which we did. And we ended up moving back to Winnipeg. That was really tricky. We moved back to Winnipeg to be closer to our parents because both our parents were getting kind of sickly. We moved around from shul to shul. The first shul that we went to was my conservative shul that I was bat mitzvah at and we were married at. The rabbi at the time said to us, if I were you and I were coming new to this synagogue, I would not join this shul. He didn't say shul, he said synagogue. I would not be a member here. So that was kind of shocking, and shortly thereafter we realized it wasn't for us either. So we moved to the Orthodox shul. We were the only people there with kids. It seemed like every shul we went to, we were the only ones with kids. I have 4 boys. They would call it the Pitch Family Choir to sing Adon Olam or Aleinu. And it's cute until your kids don't want to go to shul anymore because none of their friends are there. And it's very lonely. So we moved around, and eventually we ended up at a conservative shul that we drove to because that's where there were kids. Interesting to see, our kids still played hockey at the time, because if you live in Winnipeg, your kids play hockey. So there were times when Howard would meet us at shul after a hockey game with the kids, or he'd leave shul early with the kids to take them to play hockey, because you couldn't play hockey and not play on Shabbos. Turns out actually Menashe, his team ended up being when he was 8, the provincial champions in their hockey, and that was the last year he played hockey. After that, we took all our kids out of hockey, and in Canada, I don't know how it is here, I guess it's different because you can play with Jewish schools. That was the end of sports. Our kids couldn't play any sports because they wouldn't play on Shabbos. The other thing I wanted to say is when, back to NCSY, when Menashe was in 8th grade, he was about to have his bar mitzvah, and he said he had gone to an NCSY function, and he came home, and there was really no NCSY. Thank God for one rabbi who said, I'm going to take the kids on trips to NCSY. So they had to go to Minneapolis, Chicago, different places. He came home one time after being at an NCSY trip, and he said, I'm not driving to my bar mitzvah. We had to change shuls. So now we changed again, back to the Orthodox shul, 45-minute walk in the heat, in the snow. And seriously, I'm not joking. Snow up to hear. I'm serious. Now also imagine your little ones wanting to trudge through the snow that's taller than them. So get to shul, you're all sweaty because in order to get there, you have to wear completely covered except only your eyes are showing, and then your eyelashes are sticking together because there's frost between them. You get to shul, you gotta take all the under things off, put your other stuff back on, and then go into shul. So me, my clothes got all stretched out from all those layers. Then when you go home, you gotta put that sweaty stuff back on. So you can head back out. The going home was a little less enjoyable, that's for sure. And we had no real observant families that were near us. The other thing is, he decided he wanted to wear tzitzis. It was a school, a Hebrew day school, from nursery through 12th grade. I can't remember, it varied between like 500 and 600 kids. He was only the second kid to ever wear tzitzis there. The other one was a rabbi's son who, they didn't live there long. He went to get out of the car and he said to me, I don't want to get out of the car. I said, why? You go to a Jewish day school. And he said, Mom, I go to a school with Jews. And I said, you're going to be okay. And he was a popular kid, and he went out there and he wore tzitzis and his kippah. It was the kind of school that when you left school, the kids all took their kippahs off, right? They just wore their kippahs in school. That school was a new formation from the school that I had gone to. Now, no Gemara, no Mishnah, no Rashi, no Torah after 6th grade. So, okay, fast forward. When Eitan, my youngest, was going to 8th grade, when he was in 8th grade, when he was going to 8th grade, he had a very strange bullying experience, which again is Hashem's hand, because we were like, okay, we can't send him back to the Hebrew day school. So we sent him to a prep school, a very prestigious prep school where he enjoyed it there. They had a project on community, and you were supposed to look at your community, then your nuclear family, then your extended family, and just keep going out until you got to this larger community. He did this project and he came home and he said, this school is not my community. I can't come back here. And so we said, okay, now what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna send him? And so we had been toying around with the idea of leaving Winnipeg, but can you imagine? My husband and I had a business there. Our parents were there, my sister was there. He had his parents there, his brother and sister there. And so we've been toying around with it for about a year. And we said, I forgot to mention this other story. And sorry, I'll just be quick, just in terms of another thread. When we moved back to Winnipeg, we were invited for lunch at an old friend's house. At that house, she introduced us to another friend. That friend had us for Shabbos. On that Shabbos, there was a rabbi there who would later become my husband's teacher from that time until now. He's been studying with my husband on a regular basis since that time. It was he who said to us, I guess it's time to go. Maybe Miami Beach. My parents have a place there. He was from Montreal. My parents have a place in South Beach. Maybe there's a good Chabad there because he was Chabad. Maybe Baltimore, maybe, different places. We considered Baltimore and South Beach, and we were looking around. Again, Hashem's hand. I saw pictures, no offense to Baltimore, but I saw pictures of homes there. And I said to Howard, I can't put my finger on it, but I have to tell you, I can't move there. I see these homes, I don't know, I can't move there. And so Baltimore was off the table. His cousin Pam, who is a second cousin to him, is from Winnipeg, and she would come back and forth from Boca to visit her family, and she had talked about this amazing community, Boca. And that's how we knew about Boca. And so we contacted the shul, and I just wanted to say, these little things make a difference. Somehow, I decided we should visit with the rabbi while we're here. So we visited with Rabbi Goldberg. I don't remember how I came dressed, but I said to him, we don't fit in Winnipeg because we keep kosher and we go to synagogue. we're too fringe. We're told we don't belong there. I don't want to move to a community where we don't belong. I wear pants and I don't cover my hair. I don't want to move and find out we don't belong. And he said, you'll fit in. And that was enough for us. So we came. I guess I don't want to take too long. There's so many amazing stories, so many amazing stories. I just would say that the support and encouragement of this community has been outstanding. I was nervous to speak because so many of you are just so amazing and so inspiring to me, and I learn from you all the time. I would add also that just by chance, I had thought about covering my hair for a very long time, but in Winnipeg, the people that covered their hair, well, again, no offense to them, but I didn't want to look like them. And I thought about it, and then it just so happened that there was Yuri Gross was bringing a Rav who was giving brachas. I guess that's almost maybe 3 years ago or something, and I thought, I've never got a bracha from a rabbi. This is pretty amazing. I called him up, I said, do I pay? Like, I don't really know what to do. And he's like, no. Anyway, we waited for hours. I had a question about a yeshiva for my son. And I went to ask him the question. And I had my hair wrapped in a scarf. I normally covered my hair always with a hat, but I had it wrapped in a scarf. I asked him my question, and he said to me, do you cover your hair? And I said, well, when I go to shul. And he said, cover your hair. And I covered my hair because I figured that's Hashem giving me that message. It's time to cover your hair. You've been thinking about it. It's time to do it. So, again, I have so many amazing stories, and I guess my stories are mostly amazing also about this community. It's one person after another who has said something inspiring, done something inspiring, welcomed us into their home. You know, we came almost 6 years ago. Lots of people already had their friend groups, but they invited us into their friend groups. I want to say two or so other things. Carol Khan is here, and I have to say that when we first moved in, Hashem planted us right in Boca Hamlet, right across from Carol. Literally, the movers are moving our stuff in, and Carol floats into our house. And like we're sweating, and everybody's sweating. She floats in and she says, how can I help? What can I do? And I was just like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And she comes back and she's carrying cases of Gatorade, ice, and cups, and starts pouring and serving to the movers. And I just, like, that's, you know, she's taught me, who can I help today? What can I do today? And she's an amazing, inspiring woman. Honestly, there have been some struggles, and I think the struggles were a little bit greater for my husband, this was a very big adjustment for him, and he struggled initially, and so I don't want to sugarcoat like some of the things. And he went and he spoke to somebody who he thought might be able to help him. And the next day we were invited over to Ben and Kara's house for a barbecue, and Ben and Kara Friedman. And I did not know this, but Kara literally had just got up from Shiva the day before for her mother. I mean, this community, it just gives me goosebumps. There's so many things that each one of you have done. Mrs. Canner at the back, she gave opportunities to my boys that elevated them to where they are today. They wouldn't be where they are without her giving them those opportunities. Why? Why did she do that? That's Hashem's hand. So Hashem is just everywhere in every little thing. We have the most, I'm sure that other neighborhoods are amazing, but Boca Hamlet really is very amazing. I mean, each one of my neighbors, Debbie's there, Joyce is there. I can't even see all my neighbors, but so much support. Simone has the most amazing smile. The Rebbitzin, when I first moved, I wasn't really clear about my davening, and I asked the Rebbitzin, can I come over and can she help me with the siddur? And she said yes, and she did it. And the Rabbi and Rebbitzin have been available to us at any time that we feel that we've needed it. And Yeah, so I'm sorry if I didn't mention all the people who have been so amazing to us, but it's really just been incredible. And I did write your names down from, and the macros, I'm sure Rena's here somewhere. Like, it's just incredible. So like, Rena invites us over and there's a group of people, and the next day, Marty, Jacob, and Beverly are knocking on our door. Can we come in? Because, you know Marty, right? Can we come in? And then they introduce us to people, and they introduce us to people, and they introduce us to people. I will also say that I really appreciate all the volunteer opportunities there are in this community, and I've really tried to make myself available as much as possible. So I'm sorry if I went on too long. It's just this community is so incredible, and I thank every one of you for helping me along my journey. And I'm obviously still on a journey. I'm imperfect. I really need the Amuna class, which I'm very committed to. And, I'm working on my brachas. I wanted to say one other thing. Again, the little things that make a difference. Like we were invited over to the Weisses shortly after we moved here. And she had this beautiful Asher Yatzar in her bathroom. And I said, wow, I've never seen that before. I didn't know the Asher Yatzar. And she gave it to me. And ever since then, I've been doing the Asher Yatzar. So I'm just saying all these little things and these kindnesses that people do just can change a person's life. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you so much, Bracha. That was beautiful, really special. Our last speaker tonight is going to be Sue Kaskel. Sue, one of my first friends in yoga 25 years ago. Very excited to hear. I'm Sue Kaskel, for anyone who doesn't know me. We've been living in the community 25 years, and like the ladies before, this is an unbelievable community, and we are so blessed, and we have grown so much because of the leadership and all the people and Baruch Hashem. So I grew up in a family, unlike the ladies before me, completely secular. I knew what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur were, and I think that's it. I didn't have the Bas Mitzvah. I grew up in a town that was very Jewish. All of my friends were Jewish. We never had things like Friday night dinners, but I did know that both sets of my grandmothers, they always lit candles on Friday night, but not in my house. We didn't do that. We had a Passover Seder that lasted all about 6 seconds with the Maxwell House Haggadahs, and we had bread in the cupboard that same day. So we really grew up with very little Yiddishkeit. However, we grew up with a very solid sense of being Jewish. Like, it was very important to my parents that, like, they always instilled in us that we marry Jewish people, and how they actually thought that that was going to happen with the background that they gave us is beyond me. But my parents lucked out because we all married Jews, and it's just completely by chance, because you know what the statistics are for intermarriage. But anyway, okay, so my story is going to be a little bit disjointed, so please, bear with me. But I'm going to tell you a little story about Hashgacha Pratis. That's how it starts. And if any of you guys have read the weekly, you probably heard the story from my husband because he wrote about it. But it's the way we met, and it's really incredible. And you can see the Yad of Hashem in it. And I know that because of the way this story unfolded, he's really meant for me. Like, Hashem put us on this earth together, and this story really shows how that happened. So we were both studying for the LSATs at Stanley Kaplan. It's a preparatory course at Stanley Kaplan, and it's not a place for socializing, but it's all young kids. And he once came over to me and started talking to me. And started talking to me and said, if you ever want to sit at my table, come sit at my table. So I said, okay, and I never did, type of thing. And this is the way he tells it. He says that he remembers this girl. I used to be skinny, so he said she's tall and skinny, and she always wears a shirt that says Ohio University, a sweatshirt that says Ohio University.
So we asked the people at the front desk, there's this girl, and her name is Sue, because we did introduce ourselves, and she wears a shirt that says Ohio University, and I don't know about her, but can you give me her contact information? And they said, no, we can't give it out. So he's a very resourceful person, and his roommate from college ended up getting engaged to someone in New Jersey, and it just so happens that she lived, Hashkafa Pratis, in the next town that I lived in. And he called up and he said, I met this girl, her name's Sue. She's tall, she has dark hair, and she wears a sweatshirt that says Ohio University on it. Can you find out who this girl is? And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, the girl, Ellen, she gets back to Dan and she says, I think I know who the girl is. Her name is Sue Levine. She lives in West Orange and she went to Ohio University. My friend went to Ohio University also and said she thinks that that's who the girl is. But in terms of her telephone number or anything like that, you're completely on your own, but she lives in West Orange and the last name is Levine. So my husband takes out the phone book and there's 4 pages of Levine's. It's a very Jewish town that we lived in. And he says, I don't know where to begin. Her name is Sue. I'm starting with the S's. My father's name was Sanford, and he hit it on the first try. And we spoke, and I'm telling you, I must have spoke to him for 5, 6, 7 minutes at most. When I heard his voice on the phone, he said, I know you're not gonna know who this is. I said, it's Dan from Stanley Kaplan. I knew. And we spent a half hour talking, how we both did on the test, and so on and so forth. And he said, you know, why don't you give me a call sometimes? In the secular world, that's what you do. You just say, why don't you give me a call sometime? And I never did. And he called me back and he said, you never called me. And I said, I lost your number. And he said, I bet you didn't, but you want to go out with me on Friday night? So I said, yes, but you're going to have to pick me up because I don't remember what you look like. And we went out, and I really have to tell you, it was that night, that first night that we went out, I saw truth. I really did. I saw truth. I saw just such an unbelievable person. Like, I knew it was different from anybody else that I've ever went out with and that I ever saw. And basically, it never ended from there. And it was terrific. So then we start our our dating process and everything. We're going out several years. We still, you're Jewish, I'm Jewish, I'm say. We never discussed anything about religion, about observance, about anything, because neither one of us were. And it was just interesting. It never, ever came up. So we lived together before we got married, and we're moving into our first apartment. And he said, what do you think of this? What do you think if when we move into our apartment, we become kosher? So I said, all right. I was up for anything. I was very cool. So I said, yeah, that sounds good. Like, what does it mean though? He said, you keep separate dishes for meat and separate dishes for dairy, and when you bring Chinese food, you eat it on your plates. So I said, yeah, totally, I can do that. Yeah, I'll definitely do that. But I was into Yiddishkeit. I'm gonna backtrack now and tell you a story. When I was 17 years old, I got my driver's license. It was on a Saturday. And now I know how to drive, so I took my mother's car, and I was so excited I get to drive around the neighborhood. And like I said, I grew up in West Orange, New Jersey, and it had a religious community. And I was parked at the light, and I remember seeing all these people pushing their baby carriages, all dressed up, and all the men walking to shul. And I remember so clearly saying to myself, I wish I could know about that, but how would I ever know about that? Like, I don't know anybody who knows about that. But it just seemed so nice, but it was a fleeting thought. And then I didn't think about it again. It was like, okay, on to the next. So now back to Dan and I. We moved into the apartment. I said, there's no way we can keep kosher here. We have 2 cabinets. It's not gonna work. How about when we buy a house, we'll keep kosher? He said, deal. So years later, we actually got married, and we moved into a house. And we forgot about the kosher, and we had a beautiful wedding, and I had a great job, and he had a great job. He was just starting his career also, and we bought a house, and he worked late hours. He was a lawyer, And I remember I was sitting home alone and I was watching TV. And I said to myself, like, is this it? Like, is this it? Like, I got married, I have the best guy, I have a house, I have a great job. It's like I have everything, and if this is it, there's like, I think life is a little bit overrated. And I said, maybe this is what it means to be depressed. Maybe I'm depressed, I don't know. Like, I didn't know, I was like a young girl, I was like 25 years old. And I just realized that I'm verbalizing now, I didn't verbalize it then, that I realized that my life lacked meaning and it lacked purpose. We were just going through the motions of life, and if this is the way it was gonna be, I wasn't too thrilled about it. So, Hashgacha Pratis, we had to buy a gift for my husband's cousin who was graduating from rabbinical school, Reconstructionist rabbinical school. And there was right on our main street, there was a Judaica store. And we walked into the Judaica store, there was a rabbi with a big beard, and we said, hi, we're here to buy a gift, and so on and so forth, and we start talking. And the rabbi says, you know, I live here, and that big house on the corner, that's our house, we're building a shul, and we ran out of money, and this and that. And we're talking, he's like a very nice guy, like our age, nice guy. And my husband said, so what do you mean you ran out of money and you're building a shul? Well, we're building a small little room onto it, and we need this and that. So my husband said, you know what, I work for builders, and they're Holocaust survivors, and they're very into Jewish causes. I'm gonna speak to them tomorrow when I go to work. I said, okay. And Dan said it was, you know, the era of memos. There was no computers then. You wrote a memo and you handed it out. And he said, I met this rabbi, he's in our town, he worked and lived in the same town. And he said, I want to help this guy. He seemed like a nice guy, and he's building a shul, he ran out of money, and so on and so forth. Anyone want to help him? So one of the builders actually came forth and said, let's go at lunchtime and we'll look at the property. So they went back to the Judaica store at lunchtime, and you know, Dan walked in and said, you know, remember me from yesterday? He said, yeah, sure. And he's like, this is so and so, and we want to go see the property. So he's like, okay. They went, they saw the property, and right on the spot, the builder said, okay, we'll finish it. And the rabbi's like, wow, who is this guy? So he said, we want to invite you to Friday night dinner. You have to come to our house Friday dinner. You gotta meet my wife. You know, you gotta come. And so my husband comes home and said, they invite us for Friday night dinner. I said, what's that? And they said, you know, like Friday night, you know, like the candles and everything. I said, listen, I said, I work in the city. I'm exhausted when I come home on Friday night. If you want to go, you go. I have no interest in going. And he's like, all right. So I told him no. And he asked again, and we said no. And he asked again, and he's like, this is so not nice. Like, you have to go. So we went, and I remember I was wearing like khaki pants and a white t-shirt, and I walked into this house, and they were supposed to have another young couple, and the other young couple canceled. So it was the four of us staring at each other. And it was interesting, but it ended up, we had so much in common. They were so smart and so interesting. And we weren't talking about religion or anything like that. We were just talking about like regular stuff. And we had a great time. We were there till like 1 o'clock in the morning, just talking. And then from there, they started inviting us every single week. And we slowly but surely, we became a fixture at their table. And we went every single Friday night. And then everyone, like after like a couple of months, like the rabbi would say, you know, we have services here on Saturdays. You know, would you like to come? And my husband, no, I can't. You know, it's like I mow my lawn on Saturday and I have to work on Sunday, so I can't do it. Sorry, you know. And they just kept inviting us back. No pressure. Never saying really much about religion. Although during the meal, we would learn things and they would say things and so on and so forth. So finally he just said, oh, you want to come to shul this week? And he said, yes, I'll come. And he went, and when he came home, he said, you know what, I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to start going every single week. And I said, well, if you're gonna go, I'm gonna go, because I'm not staying home by myself. And he said, you can't go, it's only for men. Like, there's no women there, it's only for men. And I'm like, well, if you're going, I'm going. And I said, figure it out, because I wanna go too. And the Rebbitzin said, you couldn't come. Now, you have to understand, they were building this addition. So they were davening in the living room, and then I would go and I would sit with the Rebbitzin in the kitchen. And I would say, like, I don't even know how to read Hebrew. So I started with her daughter's, like, olive base book, and she started to teach me how to read Hebrew, like how to read the letters, and so on and so forth. And they incorporated us into their family, and then into their larger family, their brothers and sisters and parents, and we were invited to all their simchas and so on and so forth. And slowly but surely, we started to take on more things. We were going to classes, and I remember saying to the rabbi, like, I get this, and I like it, and I think this is kind of what I've been searching for, but I just don't feel it. Like, I'm not feeling anything. Like, I want to feel something, you know? And he said, okay, if you want to feel something, you got to learn Torah, and you got to do mitzvahs. And I always thought a mitzvah was a good deed. So I said, all right, I'll go around doing some good deeds. But then I really learned what mitzvahs were, and I started, engaging, doing mitzvahs, trying to learn Torah, and learning how to daven. Believe me, it was a full-time job, because we both knew nothing. So I got to be really, really good friends. And finally, one time they said, we're going to Israel. Do you want to come with us? We're going to take a trip. The four of us will go. We'll show you what Israel is. I'd never been to Israel. So we went to Israel and so on and so forth. But the interesting part of the trip was Dan had cousins who were very secular, but one of the brothers was religious. They all came to the mother's house for Shavuos, and we were invited, and we drove there. And the lady who was religious, she was sitting next to me, and she was like, we told her we were there with the rabbi, we were interested, and she said to me, I gotta tell you something, you look like you're right for this. She said, I think that you're the kind of girl who is gonna want your kids to have everything. You're gonna want your kids to have the best sneakers, this is what she said, you're gonna want your kids to have the best sneakers, you're gonna wanna send your kids to like the best camps, you're gonna wanna give your kids everything. Is that you? And I said, yeah, totally. And she said, well, I'm gonna tell you something. If you wanna give your kids the best start into their life, because we didn't have kids then, we weren't even thinking about having kids then. She said, you should go to the mikvah before you have your children. And I said, okay. And she started explaining everything to me. And then when we got back with our friends after our Shabbos, I just said to her, I want to start going to the mikvah. And she was like, what? And I told her what my conversation was with Dan's cousin. But as I started to learn, and as I started to grow, and it was always my personality to search. I was always a searcher. I was always a deep thinker. And I wanted to be part of something bigger than myself. And I think that's what I found in Judaism, in Yiddishkeit, in being observant. And we realized that if we were gonna make this work, we were gonna become frum, we'd have to move, because there were no frum Jews where we were living. It was all, secular people coming to Chabad. And my husband really wanted to move to Florida. Both of our parents lived here. And we decided to come see Boca. And at the time, there were like 200 families in Boca. But to us, that was like the world, because we never saw frum people. Really, honestly, never saw frum people outside of our rabbi's family. So we thought frum people were Hasidic. We realized there was a modern Orthodox element. So we came down and we ended up moving here. And it was a really, really big shift in my thinking, because at the time we were keeping Shabbos completely. We were keeping kosher. I just had my first child. I had Shmuley. I had gone to the mikvah, I had shmuli, I was doing, as far as I was concerned, all the things right. But I wasn't covering my hair, I wasn't dressing sneas, but I considered myself very frum because I was, in my heart, in my soul, I was frum. When I came to this community, now I'm seeing frum people, and they really had a tremendous hashpah on me, because now I'm seeing, like, you know what, it's not just about what you think and what you feel, it's also what you do and how you present yourself. And as a frum woman, you know, dressing sneas is a very, very important thing. And I only got that strength from living in this community and seeing other people doing it, and I didn't feel like an outcast. So first I started to wear skirts, then I started to wear, you know, covering my elbows, and you know, those were things I said I would never do. I always told Dan, I love the whole Yiddishkeit thing, but there's no way I'm ever wearing a wig, and there's no way I'm wearing a jean skirt. It's just not gonna happen. And you know, and all the things I said that I would never do, I do, very happily, mind you. So it really was this community that helped me to grow and helped me to really to grow in every sense. I also, when I first moved here, and then I had Shayna very quickly after I moved here. She was born at 26 weeks, and I've only been living here a week. And here I was in the hospital with a baby with not a good prognosis at all. And I was in a new place, and it was just a very difficult time. And I also had a 1-year-old who is the most hyperactive kid that you've ever seen in your entire life at 1 year old. And it was just, I just felt like my head was spinning. And after Shayna got out of the hospital, Baruch Hashem, you know, it was her journey into growing, and you know, I was nervous every step of the way, not knowing what was to be. And unfortunately, I had that same situation with my son. He also was very, very developmentally delayed and very hyperactive, and I really had my hands full. And I was very, very anxious and upset, and I was just very worried. And I was learning at the time with Chabad, and Rivka Denberg said to me, I have a book that I think you're gonna love. And it was a book the Rebbe wrote, and it was all about covering your hair. And it was a very, very short pamphlet actually, but it was talking about how it brings tremendous bracha to your family, and how it brings tremendous bracha to your marriage. Baruch Hashem, that was never a problem, but just continued bracha. And there was a pasuk in it, not a pasuk, but a little thing that said, your children will surpass other children. And when I read that, I said, you know what? How can I not cover my hair? I mean, I want to give my children the best opportunity, just like Jody was talking about in Israel. I want to give them the best of everything that I can give them. And if covering my hair is going to give my children the best opportunity for them to be the best versions of themselves, then I'm going to do that. And I literally put on a sheitel like the next week. And I never looked back, and I never regretted it. Not only did I not regret it, but I was so proud that I did it, and for the reasons that I did it. And every step of the way, even though things with my kids were not easy, I did see tremendous bracha, and I saw tremendous hashgacha pratis. And you know, I'm very happy to tell you that both of my children are married. My son has 2 children. He's been learning in Kollel for 5 years now, and he's, Baruch Hashem, surpassed anything that we could ever have hoped for him. And he's an amazing mensch and such a Baal Chesed. And my daughter is the same, and married and about to have a child, and just Baruch Hashem, like my kids are both frum and like both so committed. And I'll tell you, I think that was one of the things that made me so strong, was I had to be strong for my kids. I had to be the example for my children. And I guess all of us as mothers feel that way, but you want to know something? It's our responsibility. We're the ones in the house all day. Our husbands are at work. We have to be the role models for our children. It's what we do, the way we dress, how we talk, what our priorities are, and whatever our children see, it's like they're like sponges and they don't forget anything. So it strengthened me to know that I had to be strong in order to raise the children that I wanted to raise. So that's kind of my journey. Baruch Hashem, we didn't have too many ups and downs. My parents were supportive. My husband's parents were not. They got over it, I think, last week. And I'm not joking. But I will tell you this, my in-laws did not like it at all, and they were very vocal about it through the whole entire process. But I'll tell you this, they have 6 grandchildren, 2 from each of their children. And my mother-in-law said to me once, this is probably just going back 3 years ago, they came over for a Friday night dinner. Friday night dinner they'll come to, because why not? It's like, it's a great meal and they don't have to cook it, and they're happy to come to a Friday night meal, but anything else religious, they're not interested in hearing about. But my mother-in-law said, you know what? She said, I will tell you this, Sue, you did a great job raising your kids, because out of all my grandchildren, it's only your kids who call us every Friday. It's only your kids who keep in touch with us. And it's your kids who are so menschlich. And, that's tremendous coming from people who really were kind of against our lifestyle. I'm going to share with you a story and close with this. I'm sorry, I hope I didn't talk too long. It's a little bit embarrassing, I will tell you this, because I always thought of myself as better. But you know what, I guess there's always tests and trials and tribulations through life. But, listen, when you grow up secular, there's certain things that never leave you. And music to me was one of those things. I was always very, very into music. I love music. And for many, many years, I did not listen to any secular music because I really thought that it wasn't the right thing to do. I didn't want my kids hearing it. I didn't want that in their heads. So I stopped listening to secular music for many, many years, and I missed it very much. So over maybe like the last 7 or 8 years, I started listening to it again because my kids were old enough and I knew really who I was, and I really didn't think it would, change me as a person anymore. And so Danny and I always loved Billy Joel. And like sometimes before we're getting ready for Shavuos, like we'll put it on, and we'll be singing like all, every song, every word to every song, and we're singing it, we're getting ready for Shavuos, we're getting everything ready. I know it's a funny way to get ready for Shavuos, but like that stuck with us. I mean, it did, and we really like it. And Billy Joel plays at the Garden, Madison Square Garden, once every month. And he's ending that now. He's been doing it for years and years and ending it to now. And I said, I really want to go see him. I really want to go see him. The tickets are crazy expensive, like crazy. So it just so happens we got an invitation to a bar mitzvah in Muncie. And I said, you know what? We're going to the bar mitzvah. Let's go up a day early. It coincides that he's going to be there that Thursday night. Let's go to the concert, and we'll stay in the city, and then we'll go to Muncie, and we'll go to the bar mitzvah. He's like, let's do it. I said, I just want to let you know the tickets are very expensive. And he's like, what's expensive? And I said, they're over $700 a ticket. And I said, can we splurge? Can we just do this? This is like a once in a lifetime thing. Can we do this? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. We're gonna have so much fun. So I go on Ticketmaster, I booked the tickets, I'm psyched, I'm looking forward to it for like 2 months, and all of a sudden I realized, holy cow. It's during Sphira. Oh no, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, I'm not thinking about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to deal with it. And time is coming closer and closer and closer. I said, I'm not thinking about it. I don't want to deal with it. I'm not thinking about it. I don't know what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And then the night before we're ready to leave, this is Wednesday night, my friend is making a shiur at her house because she does it every year in her sister's memory. And Rabbi Shapiro from North Miami Beach came and he spoke. And he's speaking about all beautiful things. And then he starts talking. He's like, listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention about what's going on in the world right now. And what you're seeing on the college campuses is just absolutely disgusting. I mean, you see people protesting and the hypocrisy is unbelievable and the double standard is unbelievable. And he's going on and on and on. And he said, we have absolutely no control over that. None. We have no control over the hypocrisy. We have no control over the protesting. We have no control over the double standard. But we have control over the double standards that we live in our own lives. That's all we have control over. And that's what we have to look into. And I just said to myself, oh my God, I'm like ready to live the biggest double standard. And it's not gonna happen. And the second this year was over, I drove home with Orly and I walked into the house. I said, Dan, I just wanna let you know, we're not going to the concert tomorrow night. He's like, oh, thank God. He said, I almost didn't want to go, but I thought you really wanted to go and I was going to do it for you. And, I don't think I would have gone. I would have sold the tickets. I really do, but I really don't think I would have done it. I don't think I could have done it. But I really teetered. And I realized that, I was looking for truth when I went into the whole Yiddishkeit thing. And here I was being the biggest hypocrite, almost doing that, going on Sphira to hear a concert. And I realized, it's we have the power within ourselves to make choices and to be true and truthful. And we're the only ones who can control the hypocrisy in our own lives. We can't control it anywhere else. So I get to the airport and that night I went on Ticketron and I said, they say, offer us something and we'll sell your tickets. So I ended up having to sell both pair. I got $500 for the pair. And I said, I don't really care. It's not that important. It's really not that important. But I said, I feel anew. I really feel different. I feel like I turned over a new leaf. Like I realized, like a light bulb went on, and I realized like what it's all about, who I am, just at that second. Not like the whole thing, but I mean, like I was ready to do something wrong, and I changed my mind, and I didn't. And I really felt like Hashem gave me another chance. And I said, I gotta call Rabbi Shapiro, and I gotta tell him. I gotta thank him. Like, that's a shkaka pratis. And I didn't even want to go this year because I was exhausted and I was leaving for New York in the morning, but I went because it was the right thing to do with my friend. And that's what he says. And that's what connected with me. And that's why I didn't go. So I called him and I told him the story. And he was crying on the other end of the phone. It was incredible. And he said, I cannot believe that you're telling me this. And I said, Rabbi Shapiro, you've been in the rabbinate a long time. I'm sure you've heard better stories. I'm just calling to thank you. That's it. I'm calling to thank you. And he's like, well, of course. And, next year when I come, introduce yourself to me. So I said, I will. Now, we have to think of something else to do because we're in the city on Thursday night. We're not going to see Billy Joel. So I decided we're gonna go to the Holocaust Museum downtown. And we had reservations to go to a restaurant called La Marais. And I said, forget La Marais, we're gonna celebrate. We're gonna celebrate that we made the right choice, and Hashem is proud of us. We're gonna go to Reserve Cut. So we ended up going to Reserve Cut, and as we're walking around in the Holocaust Museum, the phone rings, and I see it's Rabbi Shapiro. And I said, oh, you're probably like that. Please stop calling me. Answer the phone. So I answer the phone. He goes, hi, I hope I'm not disturbing you, but do you have a minute for me? And I said, yeah, of course. He said, I just told my wife the story that you told me, and she wants to give you a bracha. And I said, of course, I'll take a bracha from anywhere I can get it. So she got on the phone. She's like, I just cannot believe, the story that you told my husband. I said, your husband's really amazing. It's really a shkach pratis and whatever. And she's like, I just want to give you a bracha because, when you give something up, there's an opportunity for you to ask Hashem for something that you want. So please take this opportunity to ask Hashem for something that you want, because I think He's going to grant it to you. So I said, thank you. It was very, very beautiful and very moving. And, just to sum it up, I just feel like, this is a life of truth. And, Baruch Hashem, we have this amazing community to share that with, and this amazing community to inspire us to be the best versions of ourselves, to live a life of truth, to live a life of Torah and mitzvahs. And the last thing I wanted to say was, they sent out a list of some of the things about special mitzvahs and things like that. I'm sorry, am I talking too long? Okay. About special mitzvahs and things. And I really thought a lot about that. I think it's, you think about why did Hashem put me on this earth? What am I here to do? What am I here to fix? So on and so forth and everything. And I came up with my own shot. And I think that it's, we have to try to identify the special qualities, characteristics, and talents that we have. And some are small, some are big. But I try to take the qualities and characteristics that I've identified in myself that I think that Hashem gave me that are special, and I try to use those to do my mitzvahs. I think that I use them for a holy purpose, and I that's one of my things. But my special mitzvah is challah. I love to bake challah. I love to daven for everybody who needs to be davened for, and I love to just the act of making challah and eating challah. So thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I hope you're as inspired as I feel. This was truly amazing to hear everyone's stories, everyone's journeys, and there's a lot for us to think about and to reflect upon and to incorporate and bring into our own lives and our own growth and our own approach to Shavuos and Kabbalas HaTorah and mitzvahs and Torah and everything. So just wishing everyone a beautiful night. Please take refreshments, take a lot of food with you, for your kids, for your families, and we will see you all very soon. Thank you. Have a great night.